Greetings everyone, welcome to my video. In this video we are going to read a book, The Story of Morgan Lattimore. For those who didn't read any books in the game, this video is for you. So let's start reading. Morgan Lattimore was a great and noble knight who fought in defense of the innocent and poor, and the afflicted. For many years he worked diligently throughout the outlying areas of Azeroth, bringing relief to the suffering and swift justice to evildoers. He was married to a young girl named Lace in the summer of 18th year. They were much in love with each other and would eventually produce three children, a son and two daughters. Morgan Lattimore was 32 when war broke out in Lordaeron. Morgan was called to the side of the legendary paladin Uther the Lightbringer to fight against the orcs and the undead. Leaving his wife and children in safety of his home, Morgan left for war. The years passed out and war dragged on, and Morgan would witness many horrific events, including the disbanding of Paladins and Silverhand, the death of Uther and spread of the plague. The only thing that kept him from brink of madness was the knowledge that he would someday reunited with his wife and children. Morgan would eventually return to his homeland, but find it nothing like how he remembered it. The once verdant forest was corrupted, teemed with the undead and dark forces. Destroyed houses and farms could be found everywhere, and cemetery near Ravenhill now dominated much the area. A shocked and bewildered Morgan eventually made his way to his home, only to find it in ruins. Not knowing what had befallen his homeland, he headed towards a village to find answers, and he hoped his wife and children. Morgan inquired about his family, but could not find any answers. A priest in Darkshire, as it was now called, said that he might search the cemetery at the Ravenhill for gravestone. Morgan refused to believe that his family was dead, and continued to search every farm and house in Duskwood, but to no avail. Morgan rode from Darkshire to nearby Lakeshire, thinking that perhaps his family had fled. On his way there, he decided against the better judgment to stop by the Ravenhill cemetery. Morgan spent hours walking amongst the gravestone and recognized many names of the people he knew and became more and more distraught. Then he saw them a small untenanted plot amongst as many three small gravestones. A feeling of dread washed over him as he approached. Morgan brushed off the dust of most prominent gravestone and revealed the name on it. Simply carved upon the grave, letters spelled out his worst fear, Liz Lattimore, beloved wife and mother. Morgan's apprehension turned to dismay and then to grief. Then he fell to his knees weeping. For hours he stared at one grave, begging the cold stone for forgiveness and sobbing apologizes. Then hours later something had snapped. Then he began to lash out. He brought his sword off his scabbard and began to run blows on the gravestone, screaming in rage. Blind in his fury, he lashed out and swung wildly, catching the notice of a trio of the cemetery's attendants as they tried to restrain him. He turned his focus to them, hurling accusation of guilt upon the innocent attendants, then killed them all. Later then, when the rage had passed, realization crept into Morgan's mind, and he saw his bloody sword driven into the chest of one of the attendants. Driven to the brink of emotions, he removed his belt knife and plunged it into his heart. Morgan Latimore's body and the three bodies of his victim were found the next day. He was quickly buried without ceremony in a hastily dug grave on the outskirts of the cemetery. Because Morgan committed murder against innocents, something that went completely against his belief and his nature, and because of his grief that he held in being unable to save his family, Morgan could not die a peaceful death and lived one as the restless dead, the undead. Only days later his grave was disturbed, but his body could not be found. The being that was Morgan now wanders Duskwood, consumed by his grief over the loss of his wife and children, and now his own self-hearted Mor'ladim, as he now calls himself, roams Duskwood with mindless vengeance and hatred, and has been known to commit murder indiscriminately. Well, that's the book Mor'ladim, Morgan Landimore. There's a question based on Mor'ladim also, which takes place after this book, where we found the grave of Mor'ladim. But that's for another video. And that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next video.